if you look at the middle of the sports ladder right now, 6 different teams are sitting on exactly 12 points.
Right. Yeah.
And on paper, it looks like absolute parity, like, 6 identical records of 3 wins and 2 losses.
It does look like that, yeah.
But the math is lying to you. Because if you peel back the layers of those 12 points, you realize one of those teams is an absolute tactical juggernaut quietly building a championship profile.
Oh, exactly.
While another is, well, structurally broken and genuinely one bad quarter away from a total season collapse.
Yeah, the latter after 5 rounds is arguably the greatest optical illusion in sports.
It really is.
We naturally want to look at a neatly organized spreadsheet and assume it represents the definitive hierarchy.
Yeah.
You see a team in the top 4 and assume they're elite.
Right. And you see a team in 9th and just assume they're mediocre.
Exactly. But early in season 13, those standings are just a distorted reflection of, well, who happened to survive the opening month's fixture list?
It's so true. Welcome to our latest deep dive. We are taking a custom-tailored look at this highly competitive snapshot of season 13 for you today.
Yeah, specifically analyzing the ladder standings after these opening 5 rounds.
Right, and we're pairing that analysis with the upcoming round 6 fixtures because, look, we are not here to read a table of contents or just rattle off a list of stats you can look up on your phone.
No, not at all.
Our mission is to decode the narrative hidden within these numbers. We want to figure out who is genuinely dominating, who is coasting on early season luck,
And who is in absolute red alert crisis mode heading into this weekend's massive clashes.
yeah, at iconic venues like the MCG, Optus Stadium, and Adelaide Oval.
Because context dictates everything at this stage of the year. I mean,
Sure.
the raw win-loss numbers only tell you what happened.
Exactly.
If you're going to anticipate what happens next, you need to understand the underlying mechanics, like how and why those results actually unfolded on the field.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting at the very top of the ladder.
The Untouchables.
Right. Port Adelaide is sitting in first place with a flawless 5-0 record. That's 20 points banked, a 5-game win streak, and a league-leading percentage of 129.47%.
It's massive.
It is. To put a visual to it, Port Adelaide isn't just leading the pack. They're operating like a boa constrictor.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, like they aren't trying to outsprint teams in a shootout. They are systematically wrapping themselves around the opposition's defensive half, cutting off their exit routes, and squeezing until the turnovers happen.
That's exactly what they're doing.
But I look at a +5 streak this early, played at that level of intense, suffocating physical pressure, and I wonder about sustainability.
Right, the burnout factor.
Exactly. Is a +5 streak this early a sign of genuine invincibility, or are they peaking too soon and putting a target on their own backs?
Well, what's fascinating here is how their percentage answers that exact question about sustainability.
Really, how so?
When you look at that 129.47%, it represents 558 points scored versus only 431 conceded. That massive ratio isn't born from frantic, exhausting, high-energy defensive running. It's born from structural dominance.
Wait, meaning they aren't just outrunning everyone?
No, not at all. Port Adelaide is trapping the ball in their forward half using a high defensive zone. By pushing their half forwards and midfielders up to the edge of the center square, they force the opposition into rushed, panicked kicks out of defensive 50.
Oh, I see.
The turnovers they generate aren't from, chasing players down from behind. They're from forcing predictable long kicks to outnumbered situations where Port's intercept defenders are just waiting.
Oh, wow. So that structural setup actually saves them energy?
Exactly.
Because they're intercepting the ball at halfback, they don't have to run the full length of the field to transition into attack.
Yep.
They're keeping the ball locked in a 50-meter area, recycling their inside 50 entries without having to expend maximum aerobic capacity every single time.
They are dictating the geography of the game. That's why their dominance is genuine. But having a target on your back is a reality when you sit at the summit, especially when you look at the chasing duo directly below them.
You mean Fremantle and Geelong?
Right. Sitting in second and third place, both sitting at 4 wins and 1 loss. They're on 16 points, lingering just 1 slip-up away from taking that top spot.
I'm looking at those 2 chasing teams, though, and their momentum profiles couldn't be more different.
Yeah, completely opposite vibes right now.
I mean, Fremantle is humming. They have a 2-game win streak. They're generating momentum, and their midfield looks incredibly cohesive.
And then there's Geelong.
Geelong, conversely, just dropped a game. They have a -1 streak attached to their name right now.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
When you're trying to hunt down an undefeated juggernaut like Port Adelaide, does that single loss act as a reality check for Geelong, or does it expose a structural flaw that the rest of the league is now going to exploit?
Well, a loss this early for a contender usually provides a blueprint for the rest of the competition.
A blue.
Yeah, I mean, teams will be reviewing the tape of Geelong's loss to see exactly how their defensive structures were compromised. It proves they can be bled.
Wow, yeah. And for Fremantle?
For Fremantle, the challenge is maintaining that two-game momentum, because the psychological pressure of a winning streak can sometimes make a team play too conservatively.
Oh, to protect their status.
Exactly. Rather than playing the expansive football that got them there in the first place.
That tension spills directly into the round 6 fixtures. Port Adelaide has to travel to Adelaide Oval to face West Coast.
And West Coast is coming in hot.
Right, riding their own 2-game win streak. They are not going to be intimidated. West Coast's game plan relies heavily on a precise chipmark possession style.
Yeah, they want to control the tempo of the game with the ball in hand.
That feels like the exact antidote you would prescribe to try and pierce through Port Adelaide's suffocating zone defense.
It is the ultimate clash of styles. If West Coast can maintain their kicking efficiency and slowly weave their way through Port's high press, they'll deny Port those front-half turnovers that fuel their massive percentage.
But if they mess up?
If West Coast's skills drop by even 5% under the pressure of the Adelaide Oval crowd, Port will swallow them whole.
It's going to be brutal.
It really is. Meanwhile, Fremantle hosts the Western Bulldogs at AFT Stadium.
Oh, that's a big one, too.
Fremantle has the opportunity to completely capitalize on their momentum, especially if Port Adelaide finally stumbles against West Coast. Under the lights at Optus, Fremantle's ability to transition the ball rapidly off halfback will be a massive test for the Bulldogs' defensive transition.
Okay, so the stakes at the top are clear-cut. But if we shift our focus down the ladder, that illusion of parity we talked about earlier really rears its head.
Oh, definitely.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The bottleneck from 4th place all the way down to 9th place is staggering.
It's a massive logjam. Melbourne, Hawthorn, Sydney, West Coast, North Melbourne, and Brisbane. All 6 teams share that identical 3-2 record.
12 points across the board.
If you're a casual observer checking the standings on a Monday morning, you assume these teams are basically interchangeable in terms of quality.
Yeah, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where relying solely on premiership points completely fails you as an analyst.
Right. You have to look at the percentage.
You have to look at the percentage to diagnose the health of the system. Let's isolate the 2 extremes of this group. Melbourne in 4th and Brisbane in 9th.
Okay.
Both have 12 points. But Brisbane's percentage is a really concerning 93.27%, while Melbourne is sitting on a robust 123.53%.
Wait, so are we looking at a quote-unquote lucky Brisbane scraping by and an unlucky Melbourne? Or does this percentage gap prove that not all 3-2 records are created equal?
It absolutely proves they aren't created equal. The percentage reveals the true margin of victory and team quality.
Right. I look at Brisbane's 93.27% and I see a sports car with bad brakes.
That's a great way to put it. Like, a team with a sub-100 percentage over 5 rounds has, by definition, conceded more overall points than they have scored. They've put up 457 but shipped 490.
Yeah, the math doesn't look good for them.
So they're statistically a net negative team on the field, yet they are somehow walking away with 4 points on the weekend more often than not. How does a team consistently win games while taking on that much water?
Well, it points to a massive discrepancy in their midfield accountability. When Brisbane's game plan works, it's heavily reliant on first possession clearance dominance.
Meaning they win the ball at the stoppage and surge forward.
Exactly. And they win those games by very tight margins, maybe a goal or 2.
But what happens when that doesn't work?
When that primary clearance weapon is neutralized, their system completely breaks down. They lack the two-way runners to cover the spread defensively.
So when they lose, they get crushed.
They're getting brutally exposed in transition and losing by 40 or 50 points. That chaotic defensive transition is what drags their percentage down into the negatives.
And Melbourne is the polar opposite. Sitting at 123.53%, they've scored 546 and only allowed 442.
Yeah, their 2 losses must have been incredibly tight.
Maybe decided by a late kick, because when they win, they are burying teams. That suggests Melbourne's defensive web is structurally sound behind the ball.
Absolutely. They're forcing teams down the boundary line, dominating the aerial intercept marks and controlling the tempo.
So even when Melbourne is playing poorly, their defensive floor is so high that they never get blown out.
It gives them a massive margin for error that Brisbane simply does not have. Over a long season, Melbourne's structural integrity will hold up against injuries and form slumps.
While Brisbane is walking a tightrope.
Brisbane is playing on a tightrope, yeah. Relying on winning a high volume of coin-lope games. And the pressure on both of them is amplified by the two absolute wild cards lurking just outside the top 8.
Oh, Gold Coast and Adelaide.
Gold Coast in 10th and Adelaide in 11th.
Both sitting on 10 points because of that rare drawn game on their records. A record of 2 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw creates a mathematical anomaly that completely fractures the ladder.
It really does mess with the standings.
Because they're operating on an offset point structure, they become this persistent, lurking threat. The teams sitting on 12 points know that a loss doesn't just mean they might get overtaken on percentage.
It means Gold Coast or Adelaide can jump them outright on points if they secure a win.
Exactly.
That offset changes the entire strategic mindset of the teams above them. If you're sitting on 12 points, you know a draw mathematically isolates you from traditional tiebreakers.
So you can't rely on percentage anymore.
You can't rely on having a superior percentage to keep you above Gold Coast or Adelaide late in the season. You're forced to chase absolute victories.
Which means more risk.
Which can sometimes lead coaches to make aggressive, high-risk tactical changes late in tight games, rather than settling for damage limitation. The psychological weight of that half-game deficit creates an environment where the middle of the ladder feels incredibly claustrophobic.
Claustrophobia is a great way to describe it. But, the anxiety of the middle pack is a luxury compared to the sheer, unadulterated panic at the bottom of the ladder.
Oh, the basement is bleak right now.
I want to look at the basement of this league. St. Kilda, GWS Giants, Collingwood, Essendon, and Carlton. All 5 of these clubs are trapped at 1-4, sitting on just 4 points.
Yeah.
The season is only 5 weeks old, but the walls are already closing in, and the situation at Carlton is particularly alarming. They are sitting dead last in 18th place with a percentage of 73.15%.
That is just brutal.
They've barely scraped past 350 points for the year, while conceding nearly 500.
A percentage dropping into the low 70s over a 5-week sample size is a massive red flag. It goes far beyond players having a bad month of form.
Right, it's systemic.
It's indicative of a fundamental breakdown in their ball movement mechanics. Carlton is repeatedly falling into the corridor trap.
Overusing the handball, right?
Exactly. They're overusing the handball to try and generate run through the center square, but their spacing is so poor that they're inviting immense pressure.
So when those handballs inevitably miss the target or get smothered,
they're turning the ball over in the most dangerous part of the ground. The opposition doesn't even have to build an offensive chain. They just collect the turnover and walk it into an open forward line.
So what does this all mean for the fixtures in front of us? Because the schedule has delivered a scenario this weekend that is going to force this crisis to a boiling point.
The Desperation Bowl.
Exactly. We have Carlton sitting in 18th, playing Collingwood sitting in 16th at Marvel Stadium. You look at a matchup like that, and it isn't going to be a clinic in tactical brilliance.
No, it's going to function like a vacuum chamber.
All the external pressure, all the media noise gets sucked out, and what's left on the field is just raw survival panic. The structures usually break down completely in these games because the fear of falling to 1-5 entirely overrides the execution of the game plan.
Yeah, and the historical context of a 1-5 record is heavy. Statistically, attempting to construct a finals campaign from that deficit requires a win rate for the rest of the season that is usually reserved for top 2 teams.
And neither Carlton nor Collingwood are playing top 2 football.
Obviously not. But this raises an important question about how pressure manifests differently depending on the opponent.
Because Carlton and Collingwood have that historic rivalry, which brings its own weight.
Exactly. However, I look at the GWS versus Sydney matchup at Giants Stadium, and the mechanics of the pressure there are entirely different.
The Sydney Derby. You have GWS at 1-4, a team completely backed into a corner, hosting Sydney, who are 3-2 and sitting relatively comfortably inside the top 8.
It's a huge contrast.
The cliche is always that, form goes out the window in a local derby. But I want to push back on that a bit. Is that actually true from a tactical standpoint, or is that just something we say to build up the drama of a lopsided matchup?
It's a valid question.
Can pure emotional aggression from GWS really dismantle Sydney's structural superiority?
It absolutely can, and it happens through tactical familiarity and the specific environment of the Derby.
Really? How so?
These two teams share a city. They scout each other relentlessly. GWS knows exactly how Sydney wants to set up their stoppage structures.
Okay.
In a normal game, a team might try to outmaneuver that structure. In a derby, the underdog typically abandons the outside game and turns the match into a chaotic, congested, contested slog.
They don't try to beat Sydney on the outside.
No, they try to turn the game into a wrestling match at the source.
Huh.
And the hostility of the home crowd at Giant Stadium just fuels that aggression.
So by dragging Sydney into the mud, GWS neutralizes the clean, precise ball movement that got Sydney to 3-2 in the first place.
Exactly.
Sydney can't rely on their transitional run if the ball is constantly locked up in physical packs. It forces Sydney to play GWS's game.
Precisely the danger. If Sydney walks into Giant Stadium looking at the ladder, anticipating a clean game against a bottom four team, they will be ambushed. GWS is wounded. And a wounded rival playing on their home turf with nothing to lose is the most dangerous opponent to face because they aren't afraid of making mistakes.
Right.
They're going to play with a level of frantic intensity that Sydney must match from the opening bounce, or they'll find themselves down 4 goals before they realize the tactical battle has been hijacked.
It is a massive flashing red danger game for Sydney, and really, that dynamic encapsulates why round 6 is looming as the ultimate separation weekend for season 13.
It's make or break.
The first month of the season allows teams to hide their flaws behind soft scheduling or early season adrenaline. But going into week 6, the physical toll is setting in, the scouting reports are comprehensive, and the true contenders begin to visibly pull away from the pretenders.
Every single tier of the ladder is going to be forced into a reckoning this weekend. That massive 12-point logjam in the middle cannot survive.
Mathematical reality dictates that it has to fracture.
Yeah, half of those teams are going to elevate to 4 wins, solidifying their credentials and putting real pressure on the top 3.
And the other half?
The other half will drop to 3-3, falling back into the mediocrity of the mid-table where every week becomes a grind just to stay relevant.
We're also going to discover the true ceiling of West Coast. Like, do they have the elite kicking precision and tactical discipline required to dismantle Port Adelaide's high press?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because if Port Adelaide survives that trip to Adelaide Oval and moves to 6-0, the conversation immediately shifts from, are they playing well, to who in this league actually possesses the tools to beat them?
And at the absolute bottom of the table, the desperation clashes will provide a definitive verdict.
Someone has to win that Marvel Stadium game.
Carlton or Collingwood will walk away with a sliver of hope, leaving the other to face a week of intense scrutiny. GWS will either reignite their campaign by dragging Sydney to the dirt, or they'll fade completely into irrelevance for the rest of the year.
There are season-defining stakes attached to every single venue this weekend, which, well, brings me back to the illusion of that spreadsheet we started with.
Right, the ladder.
The numbers are incredibly vital for understanding the mechanics of what has happened, but they completely mask the human drama unfolding underneath.
Always do.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you watch the fixtures play out this weekend. Consider the sheer psychological weight of the ladder itself as a weapon on the field.
It's a huge factor.
When a team sitting in 18th place runs out onto the grass and lines up against a team from the top 8, think about the mental warfare occurring before the umpire even bounces the ball.
Yeah, how much of the game's outcome is already dictated by the invisible opponent?
Exactly. The players aren't just battling the 18 guys in the opposing jerseys. They're actively fighting against the compounding weight of their own systemic failures over the last month, while the opposition is buoyed by the structural confidence of success.
The elite teams understand how to wield their ladder position to intimidate, forcing opponents to second-guess their own structures.
And the struggling teams.
The struggling teams have to somehow block out the mathematical reality of their season to execute even the simplest game plan.
So this weekend, don't just watch round 6 for the athletic feats or the final scores. Look closer at the mechanics of the game. Watch for the tactical shifts, the structural breakdowns, and most importantly, watch how teams react mentally when the pressure of the standings squeezes them.
It's going to be intense.
Because that neatly organized spreadsheet, it's about to get violently rewritten, and the tactical adjustments required to survive it are going to be fascinating to watch.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.